Are our government and our scientists losing the plot on this pandemic?
In terms of today's announcement, I think they had no choice, did they? I was driving down the M40 when the announcement was made this evening. As far as I understand it, that they're going to bring back masks.
Why no choice? Surely they had a choice.
Pardon?
Surely they had a choice.
No, I don't think they did have a choice, because I was one of the people who criticised Boris nearly 2 years ago now, when he didn't close down quickly enough. The Cheltenham Festival, you remember the big football match as well. He's had criticism from then. What we actually need now is clarity. We need absolute clarity, which I think, from what I've heard tonight, he's actually given. He said, right, this is the situation. These ones are closing down. We'll review it again in 3 weeks. Everyone to wear a mask on public transport. I think he had no choice but to do that. Otherwise, he'd have just got absolutely pilloried the other way.
Bev, are you in the mood to comply with renewed restrictions, the march, the steady march towards lockdown, perhaps?
No, Neil, not at all. And I completely disagree with what John's saying, in that he feels like he had no choice. I don't believe there is an emergency at the moment that the vast majority of the population needs saving from. I think we have deaths going down. They are already in very small numbers compared to other things which kill people every single day in this country. And I would say, if we don't move on now, then when? Because the cost of these lockdowns, because I, like you, suspect that another one is probably on its way, the costs to children, to education, to mental health, to relationships, to businesses, to even just the individual psychology, the toll of presume you are ill until you can tell us you are well. I think that's an experiment on the most enormous scale, and the government have never revealed to us what they consider to be the costs and benefits of this process. And so I think it's outrageous that we're staring down the barrel of mandatory mask use again. There is I can see no clinical indication. If the virus has mutated, that's what viruses do. Any of them are no more than 0.3% different to the original strain, and therefore these measures are completely out of proportion to the threat that the vast majority of people face, especially given how many of us have now had COVID, how many people are now vaccinated, and how many people, frankly, don't want this. I don't believe the majority of the British population is scared anymore in the way that we were 18 months ago.
John, vaccines, they say, might not stop Omicron, or whatever they're calling it.
Yeah.
But then in the next breath, they say, so take your boosters. Do you see any natural logic in that? That which doesn't seem to be working, take more of it?
Well, Neil, as per usual, you're mixing two things up. And with the greatest respect to Bev, she's doing the same. What was announced tonight is not a lockdown. What was announced tonight, unless I've misunderstood it completely, was he wants to bring back masks for 3 weeks. He wants people to carry on with the vaccination, and he wants people to get boosted so you are protected against Delta. This new variant, no one really knows what's going to happen with it. I don't think this necessarily means we end up in a full lockdown. No one wants to end up in a full lockdown, Neil, myself included.
John, I think
so. What people, Scott, excuse me, what people should be doing is complying, not doing what you've just said. Are you in a mood to comply? I.e., don't comply. And Bev's.
Let me give. Can I?
And I respect her for her opinions, but that has not been announced tonight. Don't misinterpret what's happened, because that's not fair.
But masks, there is no data. As I understand it, and I'm as across this as anyone, masks don't work. They
not
don't.
At all.
Can I just give you a little? And also,
they don't.
I mean,
anything. Bev.
They don't. I mean, in terms of a respiratory virus with such tiny molecules as COVID-19 has, do you know what? I personally, I don't judge somebody if they want to wear a mask. If you're an adult and you want to wear a mask, I don't like it, but I will not judge you for doing that. I picked up 4 children from school on Friday, just to give you an idea. And this one teenage boy got in the car, and he's about 13, 14. And he had a mask on in my car, and I said to him, "You don't have to wear that for me." And of course, he just sort of sat there scared, and he hadn't met me before. But I said, "Come on, I'd love to see your face. I want to talk to you. You don't have to wear that for me." And he eventually sort of took off his mask. And to see these 14-year-olds who are developing, who are trying to grow in confidence. We already have a generation of teenagers that just want to look at a phone because they find conversation difficult. And in the end, he took his mask off and he opened up and he chatted and we had a really good conversation on the way home. And I needed to set that example to my daughters who were in the car as well, to say, for children particularly, the masks are utterly unnecessary and they are going to wear them and they are learning to be compliant and they are learning to be quiet and they are learning to do what authority tells them to do, even if it is not based in any sort of logic or science. And that makes me sad.
John, where does your faith in mask wearing come from?
It's not just about the mask wearing, it's the mask wearing, the social distancing. It's making sure you have the vaccine and you have the booster. Give yourself the best possible chance, give the rest of the community. I came down the M40 today, went to Beaconsfield service station for a comfort stop, shall we call it, and it was like a football stadium. It was heaving, no one was wearing a mask, no one was social distancing. It was completely crazy. People have not been responsible enough. There is a new variant. We don't know what the variant's going to do yet, but I think he's done the right thing today to err on the side of caution. It isn't just about masks. It isn't, excuse me, I didn't interrupt you. It isn't about just about masks. It isn't just about having the vaccine. It's all of these things combined together, and it's about us being a part of the society, which I thought you'd have been in favour of, Neil, with your background in history and archaeology, but you seem to think it's every man for himself, and I think that's a pretty distasteful way of looking at it, and I think you're misinterpreting what the press conference was tonight, although I do say I may be wrong because I was driving at the time.
But there's no reason, there's no data that I'm aware of that says that the masks make any difference. And there is also, at the same time, there's data that says that the masks might actually be detrimental to health and to mental health. And I simply ask where you get your faith. I personally see them as theatre. I think it's just a badge that says I'm a good person and I'm complying with the rules.
No, I'm sorry, that's nonsense.
I see it as I'm a scared person.
Outside your bubble are actually wearing the mask, and for you to describe them in that way, or I don't know whether Bev was talking about me earlier, but maybe I got it wrong. But she was saying about people being scared. Well, people are a bit scared. Ordinary people are wearing the mask. The more you get outside of London, you'll see that, and people do have faith in them, Neil. They think it's just one part of the armoury. And likewise, I think now we have to wait and see what happens with this variant. I think to be just as cynical about it as you have been about the rest of it, when you don't even know what this variant is going to do yet, I think is rather remiss of you, if you don't mind me saying.
Bev, all across... Have we lost Bev? We've lost Bev.
That's a shame.
John, all across Europe, there are governments contemplating everything from lockdowns for the unvaccinated to mandatory vaccines, in the case of Austria. Are you in favour of that, or are these governments out of control, drunk on power?
No, I don't think they're drunk on power. I think they're probably very fearful, and their first job of any government is the protection of its citizens. You put a whole host of things into that basket there. I don't think necessarily all of those things will happen in this country. I think if we stop cynicism, and people got off their backsides and actually got vaccinated, did do social distancing, did wear masks on the tube and on buses, then I think that would all help towards it. I don't want to be locked down, but sure as hell, that's the way we're heading. And I was in that service station before the press conference happened, and I thought, this is crazy. This is crazy. No one was wearing a mask. No one. And they were literally jumping on each other. You know how busy that place is. And I just think we were asked to take personal responsibility. A lot of people haven't. Stirred up by media figures who most of them have been double vaccinated. I'm not talking about you because I don't know your vaccination status. But there are other people who are stirring this up. They're double vaxxed and they've had the booster. And it's kind of like, you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful how you message this.
As Bev said, though, if people want to wear masks, then 100% they should. Yeah. And whatever precautions people want to take, whatever medicines people want to take, whether they want to social distance, stay in their homes, they have my full, unqualified support. But you wear a mask to protect you. And if your mask is working for you, then being in the presence and socially distanced from somebody who isn't wearing a mask should put you in no peril.
I wear a mask to protect myself and also be courteous to other people as well. I had a bit of a sniffle last week. I wouldn't want to be sneezing and coughing over people. I wouldn't want those people to feel insecure if I did that, even though I do not a PCR, lateral flow most days, because my wife works in a theatre, so she has to do it. So I give myself one as well, just to be sure. I have been triple, what have you called it, triple jab now, had the booster. My wife had it 2 or 3 days ago. I would say everybody, get the jab, get the booster, because getting this illness is a hell of a lot worse than having the jab. And when people say, oh, you can still get it, yes, you can. It doesn't stop you getting it, but it will reduce the symptoms. And I've had 3 friends now who've been at death's door with COVID-19, and I'm telling you, they would have probably been dead if they hadn't had it. That's the truth of it. And I just think we just need to be sensible, and you need to give Boris a little bit of rope, maybe to hang himself, because the problem was the clarity wasn't there last time. He can't be accused of that this time. He's gone, bang, let's do this.
Bev,
well done, Boris.
Bev, are you back with us?
I am. Sorry about that. Always having tech difficulties.
That's all right. Bev, do you see us ever getting beyond this? You know, John is saying we've got to, here we are, another variant, and as I understand it, with the way that viruses mutate, there might always be mutations of this coronavirus. And if the response is like this every time, masks, increased restrictions, whatever, people's lives compromised to a greater or lesser extent, can you envisage a time where we get beyond it?
I still kind of wake up every morning and wonder what we're waiting for. And I think that's one of the frustrations, is that we've never been given a clear metric by the government as to at what point we are out. I remember, you know, summer 2020 talking about, there was lots of commentators, well, not that many actually, because the mainstream media isn't covering it terribly well, but lots of us on the sidelines saying, what is your metric for us being out of this? Because is it deaths? Is it infections? Is it what? Is it, now you wonder, should it be what our vitamin D levels are? You know, what is the metric at which the government say enough? And I think it's a type of psychological cruelty to not give us the finish line. Now you can you know, John, you can shake your head, but I'm very interested in what people see as the metric. Is it when there is zero COVID, because there will never be that? Is it when you had you know, injections every 6 months for 10 years? Like, what is the metric? What would you be happy with? When do you say enough? We just have to get on with living. People have always died. Sadly, people have always died from viruses, and I'm not underestimating the impacts that SARS-CoV-2 has had on many people. But one thing has not changed. This is predominantly a disease of the elderly. It is predominantly a disease of the sadly already unwell and the obese. So we have to look on a case-by-case basis for individuals, and I think individuals have the intelligence actually to behave accordingly and to behave in a way that they see fit, especially given what we know now about transmission and the fact that the vaccines are doing very little for transmission. We can see how many people have had COVID and have really great, robust immunity. We're all getting to the stage now, it feels like, where lots of us know people who've had COVID and have come out of the other side. And I don't know whether the end line is just individual acts of peaceful non-compliance so that the system just cannot be maintained. Because if the system is only in place to appease people's fear, then it's a failed risk assessment. A lot of people who are frightened, it's a failed risk assessment.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.